Imagine just for a moment that the delicate web of our civilization snaps. It doesn't have to be a nuclear war, though that is always on the table. It could be an asteroid impact that blocks out the sun for 5 years. Could be a supervolcano. Or more likely, it could be a microscopic enemy, a fungal blight or a supervirus that targets not humans but our food. Imagine a pathogen that wipes out wheat. All of it. Within 2 harvest cycles, the world's bread supply is gone. Then rice follows. Then corn. The supermarkets would be empty within 3 days. The riots would start within a week. The modern world relies on a supply chain so efficient, yet so fragile, that one break could send us back to the Dark Ages. If the dust settles and humanity survives, how do we restart? We can't just rebuild. You can rebuild a house. You can reprint a book. But you cannot 3D print a species once it has gone extinct. Once the genetic code of a crop is lost, it is deleted from the hard drive of the earth forever. Unless we made a backup. Buried 400 feet inside a sandstone mountain, on an island so close to the North Pole that the sun doesn't rise for 4 months a year, lies the most important room on the planet. It is built to withstand nuclear blasts. It is built to survive rising sea levels. It is designed to stand for 1,000 years, even if no human is left to guard it. This is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Most people call it the Doomsday Vault. But that name is misleading. Because Doomsday isn't just a theoretical event in the future. For the people who built this place, Doomsday has already happened. Twice. And inside this frozen fortress, hidden behind 5 locked doors and millions of dollars of security, lies a secret history of sacrifice, politics, and the terrifying fragility of human life. We are going to take you inside. But be warned, the story of the vault doesn't begin in Norway. It begins in a starving city in Russia, 80 years ago. To understand the vault, you have to understand the man who first dreamed of it. His name was Nikolai Vavilov, and he is perhaps the most important scientist you have never heard of. In the early 20th century, Vavilov was the Indiana Jones of botany. While other scientists were working in labs, Vavilov was exploring the wildest corners of the earth. He traveled to 5 continents. He trekked through the Andes, the mountains of Afghanistan, and the jungles of Ethiopia. He wasn't looking for gold. He was looking for the origins of our food. Vavilov realized that every crop we eat, potatoes, corn, wheat, has a homeland, a place where it first evolved. And in those wild places, the plants have stronger genetics. They are tougher. They can survive disease. His mission was to collect these wild seeds and bring them back to Leningrad, to create the world's first global seed bank. He wanted to end famine forever. But history had other plans. In the Soviet Union under Stalin, real science became dangerous. A pseudoscientist named Trofim Lysenko rose to power. Lysenko didn't believe in genetics. He believed that if you treated seeds with cold, they would learn to grow in winter. It was scientific nonsense, but Stalin loved it because it sounded like good Marxist ideology. Vavilov refused to lie. He stood up for genetics. For this, he was arrested. The man who wanted to feed the world was thrown into a gulag. Tragically, Nikolai Vavilov died of starvation in a prison cell in 1943. But his legacy, the seeds in Leningrad, remained. And that is where the true horror begins. By 1941, the Nazi army had surrounded Leningrad. The Great Siege began. It would last for 900 days. The city was cut off from the world. There was no food. The hunger was so intense that people ate leather belts, wallpaper paste, and even the family pets. Cannibalism was reported in the streets. But inside the Vavilov Institute, a group of scientists was barricaded in the basement. They were guarding the collection, tons of rice, wheat, corn, and potatoes. It was enough food to keep them alive for the entire war. It was enough to save their dying children. Imagine the willpower required. You are starving. Your body is consuming its own muscle. The pain of hunger is maddening. And right in front of you, just inside a glass jar, is a handful of rice. All you have to do is reach out and eat. But they didn't. The scientists knew that these weren't just calories. They were the genetic heritage of the planet. If they ate the potatoes, a specific variety that could resist rot would be gone forever. If they boiled the rice, a strain that could survive drought would be extinct. They made a pact: no one eats the samples. Alexander Shchukin, the peanut specialist, died at his writing desk, his stomach empty, surrounded by thousands of edible seeds. Dmitry Ivanov, the rice specialist, died guarding the rice collection. In the end, 9 Soviet scientists starved to death surrounded by food. They traded their lives for the future of agriculture. They died so that we could eat today. Many of the crops we grow now can be traced back to that basement in Leningrad. Svalbard is the spiritual successor to that sacrifice. It is the modern, global version of that basement. But this time, instead of relying on the willpower of starving men, we decided to rely on something incorruptible: the ice. So, if you want to build a vault that can last 1,000 years, where do you put it? You can't put it in a city, cities get bombed. You can't put it in a warm climate, electricity fails. You need a place that is cold, remote, and stable. You need Svalbard. Located at 78 degrees north, midway between Norway and the North Pole, Svalbard is barely habitable. It is a land of glaciers, jagged peaks, and polar bears. In fact, there are more polar bears here, about 3,000, than human residents, about 2,500. But Svalbard has 3 superpowers that make it the perfect location for the Doomsday Vault. First, geology. Svalbard is geologically dead. It sits on a tectonic plate that is remarkably stable. There are no volcanoes. Earthquakes are rare and weak. The mountain where the vault is built, Plataberget, is made of solid sandstone that is low in radiation. This is crucial because natural radiation from rocks can degrade DNA over centuries. Second, the cold. The vault is built 120 meters deep into the mountain, right into the heart of the permafrost. Permafrost is soil and rock that stays frozen year-round regardless of the season. Inside the mountain, the natural temperature is -3 to -4 degrees Celsius. This is the fail-safe. Even if the power grid collapses, even if the cooling systems break, and even if no human sets foot there for 100 years, the seeds will remain frozen. They might not be at the optimal -18 degrees, but they will be cold enough to survive. Third, and most surprisingly, politics. Svalbard is one of the strangest places on Earth politically. It belongs to Norway, but thanks to the Svalbard Treaty of 1920, it is a demilitarized zone. No military bases are allowed. Furthermore, citizens of any signatory country, which includes Russia, the US, North Korea, and China, can technically live and work there visa-free. It is neutral ground. In a world tearing itself apart with wars, Svalbard is the Switzerland of the North. It is the one place where enemies can agree on one thing: we all need to eat. The town of Longyearbyen is the gateway. It is a strange little settlement. It's illegal to die here, literally. Because of the permafrost, bodies don't decompose, so the graveyard stopped accepting new burials in the 1950s. If you are sick or old, they fly you to the mainland. It is a place where nature dictates the rules. And it is from here that the boxes of seeds begin their final journey up the mountain. Let's walk the path. The entrance is iconic. A concrete wedge jutting out of the snow. The artist Divik San installed a piece called Perpetual Repercussion on the roof. It's a mosaic of steel mirrors and prisms. In the summer, it reflects the midnight sun. In the winter, it glows with fiber optic lights. It acts as a lighthouse, a beacon signaling that something precious lies beneath. But once you pass the art, the reality sets in. We enter the tunnel. It is a 100-meter-long tube made of corrugated steel, blasting through the rock. The first thing you notice is the noise, or rather, the lack of it. It is dead silent. The second thing is the air. It is incredibly dry and sharp. As you walk deeper, you pass the service building. This is the only part of the facility that uses significant energy. Here, massive industrial compressors are at work. They take the air, which is already freezing, and chill it down further to the international standard for seed storage, -18 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Why -18? At this temperature, biological activity stops. The metabolic processes inside the seed slow down to a near halt. A seed is a living thing waiting to wake up. The cold puts it into a deep coma. Wheat can survive for 1,700 years at this temperature. Sorghum can last nearly 20,000 years. We are freezing time. We pass through a series of security gates. Motion sensors track every movement. There are no armed guards here. The polar bears outside and the extreme isolation are better security than any army. Finally, we reach the heart of the mountain. The cathedral. 3 massive caverns carved into the solid rock. Each one is big enough to hold 1.5 million seed samples. Currently, only the middle hall is in use. The heavy ice-covered doors swing open. And here it is, the backup drive of humanity. It doesn't look like a sci-fi movie inside. It looks like a warehouse. Rows of metal shelving. Plastic crates. But look at the labels. United States. North Korea. Ukraine. Russia. In this room, the borders drawn on maps don't exist. A box of seeds from Ukraine sits next to a box from Russia. A box from South Korea sits next to the north. Inside these boxes are black box deposits. This is the legal genius of Svalbard. Norway owns the facility. The crop trust pays the bills. But the seeds? They remain the property of the country that sent them. Norway cannot open the boxes. The scientists running the vault cannot open them. Only the depositor has the key. It functions exactly like a safety deposit box. Countries that trust no one trust Svalbard, because they know that when the crops fail, ideology won't feed their people. But what happens when the doomsday we prepared for actually arrives? It turns out we didn't have to wait long to find out. When the Svalbard Global Seed Vault opened in 2008, the mood was celebratory. Champagne was popped. Speeches were made about eternity and safety for 1,000 years. The architects and politicians believed this was a passive facility, a time capsule. They thought it would sit quietly in the ice, untouched, for centuries. They were wrong. It took less than 10 years for the first doomsday to arrive. It didn't happen globally. It happened in the cradle of civilization, Syria. In the city of Aleppo, there was a critical seed bank run by ICARDA, the International Center for Agricultural Research in the Dry Areas. This wasn't just any seed bank. It held the world's most valuable collection of crops for arid climates. Wheat that can grow without rain. Chickpeas that can survive intense heat. Faba beans that feed millions in the Middle East and Africa. These seeds were the result of thousands of years of farming history in the Fertile Crescent. But in 2012, the Syrian Civil War reached Aleppo. The fighting was brutal. The seed bank found itself in the crossfire. Rebel groups took control of the area. The scientists were forced to flee. They left behind the freezers, the equipment, and the seeds. The bank was still standing, but it was inaccessible. The electricity failed. The cooling systems died. The history of Middle Eastern agriculture was rotting in the heat, while bullets flew outside. But the scientists at ICARDA had done something smart years earlier. They had sent a backup copy of everything to Svalbard. In 2015, barely 7 years after the vault opened, ICARDA made a historic phone call to Norway. They issued the first ever withdrawal. It was a somber moment. The heavy steel doors in the Arctic were opened not to put seeds in, but to take them out. Boxes that had been sleeping in the permafrost were brought back into the light. 116,000 samples. They were loaded onto ships and planes and sent to secret, safe locations in Morocco and Lebanon. There, scientists planted the seeds. They harvested them. They multiplied them. And slowly they rebuilt the lost collection. Because of that backup in Norway, the genetic heritage of Syria wasn't erased by the war. It survived. It is growing today in fields across the Middle East. The system worked perfectly. But it changed our perception of the vault forever. Svalbard isn't a museum for a distant future. It is an active rescue station for a dangerous present. But just as we patted ourselves on the back for saving the seeds from war, we realized we had forgotten to save the vault from the planet itself. Svalbard is the fastest warming place on Earth. While the rest of the planet warms by roughly 1 degree Celsius, Svalbard has warmed by nearly 4 degrees in recent decades. This is Arctic amplification. And in 2017, it attacked the vault. That year, the winter in Svalbard was bizarre. Instead of the usual -20 degrees Celsius, the temperature spiked above freezing. It rained. The entrance tunnel descends 100 meters into the mountain. The architects had relied on the permafrost to be solid, watertight rock. But the permafrost was melting. Water from the rain and melting snow didn't just drip, it gushed. It poured into the entrance tunnel. It flowed down the slope, pooling at the bottom near the first security gate. Then, as the temperatures dropped back down, that water froze. When the staff arrived, they found a glacier inside the facility. A solid block of jagged ice blocking the path. To be clear, the seeds were never wet. They are stored uphill from the tunnel bottom, behind waterproof airlock doors. They were safe, but the psychological damage was done. The fortress designed to withstand nuclear war had been breached by a little bit of rain. It was a PR disaster. Headlines screamed, "The Doomsday Vault is flooding." The irony was cruel. The vault was built to protect our food supply from climate change, and now climate change was breaking down the front door. Norway responded with brute force. They weren't going to let their flagship project fail. They launched a massive upgrade operation, costing nearly 100 million euros, more than the original cost of building the vault. They tore up the entrance tunnel. They installed a massive waterproof concrete tube, turning the tunnel into a submarine hull. They dug drainage ditches into the mountainside to divert melting water. Most importantly, they installed a new cooling system and moved all the electrical heat sources out of the vault into a separate service building. They are now artificially freezing the ground around the tunnel, forcing the permafrost to stay frozen even if the air outside gets warm. They have engaged in a battle with nature. Man versus the sun. It is now tighter, stronger, and more resilient than ever. But the scar of 2017 remains. It reminds us that there is no such thing as maintenance-free. Even at the end of the world, someone still has to change the light bulbs and check the pumps. Today, the vault holds over 1 million unique seed samples. There is room for 4.5 million. Every year, new deposits arrive. Thailand sends rice that can survive salt water, anticipating rising oceans. Germany sends barley. Brazil sends beans. We are racing to catalog the natural world before we accidentally destroy it. But there are things missing. There are crops we haven't found yet. There are wild cousins of the potato hiding in the Andes that might hold the cure for the next famine, but they might go extinct before we ever find them. And there is a philosophical problem too. Some critics call this the backup syndrome. If you know your computer is backed up to the cloud, you might be less careful with your laptop. You might take risks. Does having a seed vault in Norway make us lazy? Does it give governments an excuse to let biodiversity vanish in the wild, thinking, "Oh well, we have a copy in the freezer"? The vault is not a replacement for nature. It is a snapshot of it. A frozen JPEG of a world that is changing too fast. We cannot live in the vault. We cannot farm in the vault. If we ever have to open these doors and empty the shelves for real, it means we have failed. It means the systems outside have collapsed. It means billions are hungry. The goal of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is not to be used. The best case scenario is that these doors remain locked forever. The best case scenario is that the ice takes over, the polar bears roam outside, and the seeds sleep in the dark, cold silence, forgotten. As you stand outside the vault in the polar night, watching the northern lights dance over that glowing concrete entrance, you realize something profound. We are a strange species. We build nuclear weapons that can wipe out the planet. We pollute the atmosphere. We destroy forests. We seem obsessed with our own destruction. And yet, we built this. We traveled to the end of the earth, drilled a hole in a mountain, and filled it with the potential for life. We did it not for profit. There is no money to be made here. We did it for people we will never meet. For generations that haven't been born yet. This place isn't built out of fear. It is built out of love. It is a promise that no matter how much we mess up, no matter what wars we fight or what disasters we face, we are not giving up on the future. Svalbard is humanity's insurance policy. It is the backup drive for civilization. It sits there, silent and frozen, waiting for the day we might need it again. And let's be honest, looking at the state of the world right now, aren't you glad it's there? What do you think? If the apocalypse happens tomorrow, which seeds would you want to save first? Coffee? Wait. Or maybe something illegal? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see what happens inside other forbidden places like Area 51 or the Vatican Archives, click this video right here. I'll see you there.